More schedule leaks for the San Francisco 49ers. Week 1 Jets. We've got the Kansas City Chiefs coming as well. And changes on the roster, changes in the front office, a whole lot more on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you as always at BD Peacock at Crocky209. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We love our everydayers, and we always love it when you hit that subscribe button. Please subscribe on YouTube or anywhere you are listening to this podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And if you're listening to this on Wednesday morning, you know what time it is. You know what the score is. It's Winky Wednesday.
Nicholas Winkler, come on down.
Wow. Can't believe it.
May 15th, guys, and there's always news in the NFL. That's why it's so fun to cover this league. That's why we do a daily podcast here throughout the offseason. And Wink, we've got news. We've got schedule leaks for the 49ers. First of all, we know what week the Niners are playing the Chiefs now in week 7, which is a fun one. But let's talk first about, and of course, later on Wednesday we're gonna get the whole schedule. But let's talk about these couple of games first, and 49ers making some moves in the front office and on the roster as well here in mid-May. But opener, week 1, Monday Night Football, 49ers hosting the New York Jets. Wink, how are we feeling about this? And is it too early to go Winkstradamus on these games that we already know that are on the schedule?
Oh, I'm going week 1 win. Let's go. Mark it down. It's guaranteed. I'm probably going to try to.
Is on fire.
Wow. What can I say? It just makes sense, right? Come on. It's the Jets. It's at home. It's Monday night. I'm going to probably try to go to that one. I'm not a big fan of going to Sunday games because I like to watch all the games, but week 1, Monday night.
Standalone Monday nighter. It's not like there's 2 games on Monday night either. Croc, we talked on the last podcast. We had just heard about the schedule leak of the 49ers in week 1 against the Jets. And the thing that we didn't speak on was that Leonard Floyd, now a 49er, is the guy that knocked out Aaron Rodgers last year with the Buffalo Bills. And the Jets now have the guy who knocked out Brock Purdy in the playoffs a year ago as well. So let's block everybody up front, right? For both of these squads. We talk about the quarterbacks, we talk about first round wide receiver. Let's get them blocked up too.
I saw someone mention Leonard Floyd, but I didn't quite make that connection. So makes sense.
In the chat they're talking about Leonard Floyd, and I was like, why are they talking so much about Leonard Floyd right now? And I didn't put it together at the time until later I realized, okay, Leonard Floyd, Buffalo Bills. And look, Aaron Rodgers, I want the 49ers to beat the Jets, but I hope Aaron Rodgers plays more than 4 snaps. Right. And I would like him to play more football than to appear on podcasts, so that's just where I'm at with Aaron Rodgers. Much rather watch him play football than hear him speak on things.
Well, that too. And I just heard him say some wild stuff about Putin, and like Russia and history.
Shocking.
He literally like released something right after we just talked about that on Tuesday. It's ridiculous.
But me as a fan of football, and as great as it was seeing the 49ers dominate the Pittsburgh Steelers, my brother John was right here sitting to the left of me, and obviously he's a big Steeler fan. But it was fun watching that game. But I kind of got bored with it, right? Like I like seeing competitive games. I like things that get the heart rate going a little bit. I don't mind a blowout, but I do prefer a game where you just get to see both teams kind of go at it a little bit. And instead of one team kind of fighting with one hand behind their back. So I do hope that Aaron Rodgers plays the whole game. And if the 49ers smack him up with A-Rod out there, I'd appreciate that one a lot more than whoever the hell their backup quarterback is if he has to play for the Jets.
Especially week 1, right? I mean, we've been waiting so long for football again. You want it to be competitive. You want it to come down to the end, not at halftime. You're like, oh, man, this isn't going to be a great second half. It's Monday night. It's getting late. Maybe I'll go help put the kids to bed. Like, no, I want it to be exciting all the way. Keep those kids up, right? I want my kids to stay up. It's a big night. This is going to be a lot of fun. And I love that it's against Aaron Rodgers because there's so much drama after what happened last year. You know, you're talking about it. Peacock with the 4 snaps and then he's done after all the hype with Hard Knocks and all that. And now it's like, okay, we're going to have to run that all back, right? It's going to try it all again. And this time it's going to be in our house week 1.
You know what else I didn't put together with 49ers Jets in week 1 was an all-time great game in 49ers history. Going all the way back to Garrison Hurst, walk-off, overtime, 96-yard run, probably the loudest in my life I ever yelled and like got out of my seat and yelled at a television screen watching a football game like that. And I don't get super demonstrative watching games, especially now as an adult, but younger, watching that game and watching Garrison Hurst rip off a run to win the game. I mean, that was unbelievable. I lost my mind when that happened.
And I didn't catch the whole game. Back in those days, church came first and foremost, especially with my grandma. Like she wasn't playing that. But I got home, and I don't know if y'all been to like some of these black churches, but they can kind of stretch the whole thing out a little bit, you know. And that was just an amazing ending to the game. And I think one thing that goes a little under the radar with that, the effort from Terrell Owens to run down the field and block. I think there was an offensive lineman running down the field too, but T.O. and offensive lineman leading the way for Garrison Hurst, who clearly, I think, around the 50-yard mark started to kind of lose a little gas, run out of gas just a little bit.
It's just like when you play Madden, right? You hit that speed burst right away to get through the hole. He used it up real quick and ran out of juice.
He used it up. And Garrison Hurst kind of had that running style where he's kind of up on his tippy toes and we're like, just don't tip over forward, man. Like keep it going, keep your legs underneath you, keep your feet underneath you. Yeah, it wasn't like a 96-yard run where someone just takes it the distance and houses it. Like there was a lot going on, and he was not out of the woods for most of that run.
Quick question. Do we remember why the 49ers were on the 4-yard line? Like, why were they pinned back so deep?
I'm assuming the Jets got the ball first,
and
had to punt it, pinned the 49ers back. But I don't know. If I remember correctly, and I was young at this time. I had to be,
that was a long time ago.
10 years old. I was about to say I had to be like 10 years old. I don't remember how they got backed up.
Drop it in the comments if you see it, if you remember. Oh, I think Peacock's looking it up. Here we go.
I'm curious now.
It's gotta be a punt. Maybe there's a fumble on the kickoff or something. I mean, maybe somebody made a really bad decision. That stuff happens.
I'm curious now because I didn't think about that they were on the 4-yard line. 36-30 was the final, by the way. Rich Eisen was talking about this game. And he's a Jets fan, obviously. So he remembered it right away. We're talking about week 1 for a very different reason. He brought up who the quarterback was. It was Steve Young for the 49ers. Do you know the name of the quarterback for the Jets that day?
Chad Pennington. Vinny Testaverde.
I would go Vinny.
Pre-Chad Pennington. I think it's a couple years. Chad Pennington's 2000 draft, I believe. Everybody thought the 49ers were going to draft Chad Pennington in that draft, by the way. And when they traded back with I think Washington, right? And they had a couple of first-round picks, and they did not draft Chad Pennington that year. You guys aren't going to guess it, so I'm going to just say it. None other than Glenn Foley.
Sure.
He had the game of his life. And I didn't remember the name. I don't remember that part of the game. But there was a reason why the 49ers, who were a really good team in 1998 with Steve Young, were tied with the New York Jets. And it was because Glenn Foley had the game of his life. Might have been the only game he ever played. I have no idea. I'm just looking at his stat line from this game, though. 30 of 58 passing, 415 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. He actually outdueled. They're very similar line. Steve Young was 26 of 46, 363 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception as well. So Glenn Foley can talk about dueling Steve Young, taking him to overtime, putting up 400 yards on the San Francisco 49ers. I don't know how many games Glenn Foley played in his career aside from that one, but he's as the name, I was like, no way. You're making that up, Rich Eisen. No, but Glenn Foley out of Boston College, it looks like he had a couple thousand yards in his career, more interceptions than touchdowns, but not on that day.
I think that was also at a time where the 49ers used to have like these miniature cornerbacks, like Darnell Walker and who was the other one?
R.W. McQuarters, wasn't he?
Well, McQuarters was like 5'9", and this was an era too where, remember, like Randy Moss was this big receiver coming into the league. Yeah. Teams started drafting the, Charles Rogers, the Reggie Williams, the Roy Williams, all these 6'4", 215-pound receivers. And the 49ers just had these tiny corners that they were running out there in the mid to late 90s.
R.W. McCorder's first-round pick might have been 98 when he was a first-round pick. He might have been a rookie on that squad. Keyshawn Johnson.
Who was with him. It probably was Darnell Walker. I don't know why that name keeps popping up in my head.
R.W. McCorders, yep, he did have 3 punt returns in that game. Kick returner for the Niners in that game, Chuck Levy. Remember Chuck Levy? Kind of tall.
Oh, yeah.
Running back.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of upright runner. Antonio Langham. Croc. There you go. That was a big
Langham. They ended up getting him. There was I think they got him from Green Bay. There was another McMillan. Nate McMillan.
Oh, McMillan. Yeah,
he was later, wasn't he?
He was small.
They paid a bunch of money for McMillan, I feel like.
And he was like
thinking of Clemens.
The
You're
three
thinking of Nate
corners
Clemens.
the only 3 corners that are listed on the box score here that got tackles in that game were Antonio Langham, Darnell Walker, and R.W. McCorders.
Okay.
Merton Hanks still going at safety. Zach Bronson was the other safety.
This is the year after the catch too, right? That was 97.
Yeah, I think so.
So 98 ended with Garrison Hurst snapping his ankle against the Atlanta Falcons in the championship game, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Dirty Bird.
Oh, Dirty Bird season. Always hated the Falcons ever since.
Hey, man, 10, 11 years old, man. And I still remember that stuff like it was yesterday.
Yeah, it was important, man. 10, 11 is the time. That's the time in your life you choose your teams, you choose your favorite forever players. It is the most important time for you.
Oh, God, guys, can I tell you? Remember we were talking about in the playoffs, and my daughter was starting to get into it, right? She was starting to get into football. And I was like, oh, I really hope they win the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. Oh, man, just the other day, she's like, Dad, please don't be mad at me. Yeah, she's like, Dad, I still like the 49ers, but Dad, I got a new favorite team. I was like, I know who you're going to say. I know. It's going to break my heart, isn't it? She's like, yeah, but Dad, I'll still root for the 49ers, but I really like the Chiefs. And I was like, oh, yeah.
Oh, man. It's got to be the Taylor Swift, the Taylor Swift effect.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And I get it. She's 10 years old. She's almost 11. You're talking about picking your teams. It's like, thanks a lot, Taylor. Really appreciate it.
Well, hopefully that ends really poorly. And then the Swifties revolt against the Chiefs.
Yes. Whole new album just about that.
Niners adding an offensive tackle that they did not add in the draft. So they're doing it after the draft in free agency now. Chris Hubbard, and making some front office changes as well for the 2024 season next. This episode of Locked On 49ers is sponsored by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. That's right, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and a whole lot more. NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, Major League Baseball, every day, all summer long. And, of course, you can still bet on the NFL, bet on those 49ers to win the Super Bowl, bet on offensive and defensive rookies of the year, and so many more NFL bets. You can find it all at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So another leak, we already knew the 49ers were going to play the Chiefs, but we know now it's going to be week 7. Croc, is that at home or away? Do you know?
I believe because of the way the conference stuff is set up, I think it's a home game for the 49ers, but I will check, so don't quote me on that just yet.
Okay. So we got 49ers Chiefs in week 7, and I like that being in week 7. Give the 49ers a little opportunity to get their legs underneath them, because one thing that could happen in week 1 against the Jets that you hope isn't the case against the Chiefs in week 7, guys, is that the 49ers under Kyle Shanahan have started slow sometimes and kind of figured things out toward mid-season. And you hope that's not the case, and you hope that Brock Purdy is a factor that doesn't allow that to happen. And Wink, I think you got to be kind of excited for Brock Purdy and what's still, because he's not thought of as a high upside player, right? But he has, as awesome as he has been for the 49ers, you got to project a little bit more from him just to have the opportunity to have a full offseason as the starting quarterback, which he has never had at the NFL level.
Yeah, and he's been so successful without it. And now you're going to get out there. You're going to get every snap in the preseason, in training camp. You're going to get everything. And you may have this new weapon, right? In Pearsall. And that's another wrinkle that's going to be added to this offense. I'm really excited to see what Brock Purdy is going to do in year 3. I mean, we saw what he did in a half a season. We saw what he did in a full season. And now year 3, he's playing for some big money too, right? I mean, he's going to get paid. If he comes out again and Brock Purdy has another season similar to what he just did, even if it's a little less, he still put up amazing numbers. He broke every 49er quarterback record. I know there was an extra game and everything, and it's a different game than when those guys played, but still, it was amazing what Brock Purdy did. Guys throwing out the first pitch tonight at the Giants-Dodgers game. This guy he's becoming part of the community. The 49er fans love him, and he's going to get paid. And are the 49ers going to be able to do it? That's the real question.
Yeah, he's gonna.
Look what Jared Goff just got. That's crazy,
and he's probably gonna get more than that because he's up
wild.
Yeah, and he's about to. We're recording this on Tuesday evening. He's about to throw out that first pitch. Is Brock Purdy, and Dad was a pitcher in the Giants organization. I think he's gonna have a better attempt than Fred Warner and Deebo Samuel did.
I hope so.
Ago. Yeah, on the mound. He's a ball player. He plays like a second baseman anyway. He plays like a shortstop. That's how he plays the game.
Hey, by the way, that game, Kansas City Chiefs, 49ers, it will be in the Bay Area.
All right.
Home game for the 49ers.
Home game, week 7, Niners hosting Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. And, beat them in the regular season is cool, but prefer that February win. If you're the 49ers, that's what it's all about.
I think for the 49ers, you kind of gotta get that monkey off your back, though.
Just show them you can beat them. Yeah.
Yeah. The Kansas City Chiefs have dominated the 49ers several times now, going back to what was it, 2018, I believe, when Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt.
Game? Yeah.
So you were getting throttled that game, and somehow you kind of climbed back, made it somewhat interesting. And ever since then, you just lose. You lost 2019. You lost in the regular season 2022. You lost again in the postseason 2023 in the Super Bowl. So I think for the 49ers, it just proving to yourself that we could beat this team. It's there. The plays that need to be made just haven't been made yet. So, or maybe the errors that have happened. But I just think errors, like those things are going to happen. A fumble here and there, a missed throw, a bad bounce. But in that moment, when you need to beat that team, can you show you can do it? And I think that's one of the key things 49ers are missing when it comes to taking down the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to, we were talking about Steve Young, right? And when he finally did win his Super Bowl, is the whole monkey off the back thing, right? Like, yeah, take it off, get it off. And right now for the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan, those guys, like the monkey right now are the Kansas City Chiefs. Like that's just a big burden that's there until you can beat them, even in a regular season game. That'll mean a lot going forward, because right now they're like the boogeyman, right? They can't do anything right against them.
It gets into your psyche. It's like, this is the team we can't beat. They're the best team in the NFL. We can't knock them off. How are we going to do that?
And they get leads and then in these big games, and then they blow it. It's like,
lead doesn't matter. You almost want to play from behind.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of my Lakers against the Nuggets. Was it like 6 straight postseason games where the Lakers are up double digits against the Nuggets, and the Nuggets never panic, and they're just, we'll find a way to win this game. And that's
what champions do, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And the only difference there is that the Lakers are trash and the 49ers are not. So when we had a question actually from a listener, right, Croc, about Brock Purdy. I think now would be a good time for that. And we'll talk about some of the roster changes. Was it, let's see, I think I saved it. Oh, from BMAC. Here it is. Yeah. From BMAC on Twitter. If Purdy went to free agency, which teams are interested? I don't believe any other team would be offering $50 million plus per year for Brock Purdy. What do you guys think about that, Wink? What would be his open market price? And one of the things that doesn't happen in this day and age in the NFL is, back in the day, GMs were played a little bit, like GMs and owners kind of played a little bit harder of a line. And they're like, okay, that's more than we're willing to pay. So we'll see what happens in free agency. Teams aren't willing to do that anymore. Teams are like giving the open market free agency price a year before and not even allowing things to get that far, not playing hardball. And one of the reasons I think it probably couldn't even go to that is because Brock Purdy might not suit up next year if he doesn't have a deal in place already. So that's one hurdle. And for a quarterback, and Brock Purdy especially, that might be a situation where Brock Purdy might say, man, I might miss out on every game check, $950,000 or whatever it is, right? But getting hurt and not getting $50 million is per year, $200 million plus dollars, whatever it is, the final contract, that might even be worth that. So like, even if you wanted to play hardball, Purdy might be one of the few cases where he might actually just completely sit out, and his agent would come up with a plan to be like, well, look, this is better for your future to just take the hits and be fined every single game until whatever the date is that you have to accrue a season, which is, halfway through the year, week 8 or whatever, which would obviously be a disaster for everybody.
To me, Brock Purdy seems like the guy that if it doesn't work out in the NFL, he'll go back to the farm and he'll be fine with his life. Like I feel like he's that type of guy. Yes, he wants $50 million. Yes, but I don't think he's the type that's going to sit out and be like, I'm going to do this. He seems to me like the kind of guy that would get as much money as he wanted on the free agent market. Look at how much money they're throwing at Jared Goff. Look how much guaranteed money they keep giving Kirk Cousins everywhere he goes. Like there are franchises out there that are so thirsty for a franchise quarterback that they would pay him so much money. This is a guy that's a proven winner in the NFL. Every single player around him raves about him. The only people that talk trash about Brock Purdy are some of the talking heads that just want clicks. Like everybody else that plays against him or plays with him is like, this guy's the real deal. This is a guy that's gonna make it in the NFL. He's already in a season and a half has proven that he can win in this league. If he goes to the free agent market, the 49ers aren't going to be able to re-sign him. Somebody else is going to give him a ton of money.
$50 million a year, Croc, from another team? Or do you think the 49ers would be bidding against themselves when they sign him next offseason, no matter what money they give him?
It's an interesting dynamic, because I think we look at him with the 49ers and we understand just how great of a fit it is all the way around, right? With just Brock Purdy, the way that he sees the field the way that Kyle Shanahan sees the field. And there has been a lot of talk about Kyle Shanahan and the kind of quarterback that he needs or wants, right? They had the article where one of the 49ers coaches under his staff said the system makes the quarterback doesn't make the system. So I think it's a match made in heaven for Brock, who, when you look at his scouting report coming out, it talked about how he was a guy who needed a play action based offense. Well, he got that. And with Kyle, I just don't think Kyle Shanahan needs a guy that has this big arm or this crazy athleticism and all these things that he tried to kind of get. He tried to get that, and like, I'm just not interested in that. I want this guy that's going to do what I say and do it how I want him to do it. And I think that works extremely well for Brock. I don't know what that would look like on the Minnesota Vikings. I don't know what that would look like on the Arizona Cardinals. So would one of those teams pay him $50 million? Maybe if he's the only quarterback available, if they had a choice between Kirk Cousins, Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, who's potentially going to be on the market, would those teams see a better fit with those quarterbacks as opposed to Brock? And I think that's a legitimate question that we'll never know the answer to, because the 49ers will pay him $50+ million.
Right. They're not going to let that happen.
Right.
But like, if you want to be disgusted, you could think of a future that does happen. Brock hits free agency and then signs with the Dallas Cowboys.
So that does sound disgusting.
I think that's where we have to end that conversation. Let's talk Chris Hubbard. Let's talk 49ers front office changes next. This episode of Locked Up 49ers is sponsored by GameTime. Killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. GameTime takes all the guesswork out of buying NFL tickets. And no matter what tickets you're looking for, we're talking schedule this week in the NFL. So you see that game, you're like, I got to get to this game. You can find it on GameTime. But maybe you want to go catch a ball game close to you tomorrow or the next day, whatever day it is, a concert, a comedy show, any kind of theater events near you, you can find them on the GameTime app, and you can get amazing last-minute deals as well. on Game Time. And if you do buy one of those NFL tickets on Game Time, it's right there on the app. It's super easy. Couple taps. You see the view from your seat before you buy, no matter what stadium in, and you got the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And those tickets will be there when it comes. It's called Game Time for a reason, guys. When it is game time, the tickets will be right there on the app. You don't have to go fishing through emails because you don't remember where you've got the tickets and where they are. It's all right there on the Game Time app. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So the 49ers, I think, is this a signal that the 49ers didn't get an offensive tackle they thought they were going to get in the NFL draft, because now they are signing a tackle? And Croc, we had talked about the tackle depth chart, right? And we're like, a little thin there maybe, and less thin now today as the 49ers have signed former Titans offensive tackle Chris Hubbard to the roster. Now, we're not going to get deep into the scouting report or anything like that, but we had talked earlier in this podcast about protecting Brock Purdy. It's a pretty important thing to do, and clearly the 49ers did not successfully do one of the things that was probably something they hoped they could do in the NFL draft. Not that they, failed to not do that, because clearly they drafted the players they liked where they got them, but they probably hoped they would come out with an offensive tackle, and clearly did not. So, Wink, now they got some more depth on the offensive line at offensive tackle with Chris Hubbard. And what do you think about the deal? What do you think about the 49ers offensive line as it is constructed now post-draft?
I mean, it's a guy that could push McKivitz, right? I mean, that's what you look for. You want some competition in camp. You want a guy that isn't just another guy. This is a former starter in the NFL. This is a guy he's middle of the road, but in the right system, could he become a great tackle? Maybe. Could he be a good tackle? Is that what the 49ers are looking for? Is just a middle of the road guy? Because it seems like that's what they got.
I think he's a backup. I think he's just someone to compete with Jalen Moore, swing tackle. They had Brandon Parker as well on the roster. It really feels like it's a depth piece, and it's a signing to help in case of injuries more than it's someone that's going to actually push. The 49ers like Colton McKivitz more than the average fan. He did start 9 games last year for the Titans. He went on IR, but he's healthy now, obviously, and was able to sign a deal with the 49ers and pass a physical. So he's added to the mix. The 49ers also added one of their rookie mini camp tryouts. Defensive lineman Shaquille Brown signed with the 49ers after he was there on a tryout basis in Santa Clara. And according to Matt Barrows, the 49ers have been interested in Brown for more than a year. They had him. They had an official visit with him before the 2023 draft, didn't end up signing him. And by the way, Matt Barrow's scouting report on Shaquille Brown is that he looked huge and ripped during Friday's minicamp, 6'3", 295 pounds. So that is Shaquille Brown. Look out for him on your 49ers training camp roster. So a little more competition, a couple more players. 49ers dropped a couple of guys as well to make room for those 2 guys on the 90-man roster. So still doing roster here in the middle of May. Some front office changes as well I wanted to talk about, guys. And somebody asked, and Week, I don't know if we talked about this with you post-draft, but it was an interesting wrinkle to draft day. And Floyd the Barber asks, if anyone on the scouting side or support staff has quietly left the organization in the wake of the leaking an incorrect first-round pick to Mike Silver. And if for those of you who don't know, the story goes that, and we were out live doing this on the OT with BP channel, me and Croc, when the pick was coming in, everybody in the chat, so Croc's off to the side, he's not looking at the chat, he's waiting for it to be announced on his TV screen. And everybody in the chat's like, it's Cooper DeJean. Coop. It's just like, I just see the stream of chat. Everyone's saying Cooper DeJean. And so I'm like, oh man, it's Cooper DeJean. That's the guy Croc said the Niners should draft right here. It's his guy. And so I'm waiting for Croc and I'm waiting for the announcement. And all of a sudden it's like, the thing comes in. And then someone says Pearsall in the chat. I was like, that's a weird name to bring up right now. Okay, weird. Someone else says Ricky Pearsall. I'm like, wait, what? And then you hear the TV that Croc's watching. Ricky Pearsall is the pick. And the story goes, the conspiracy theory here is that the 49ers we're trying to find the leak in the building, whoever's given the inside dirt to Mike Silver. So they leaked the wrong names, and Cooper Kupp was one of those. And so now they know who the rat is in the building. This leak is not Cooper Kupp. Cooper DeJean. Thank you. Cooper DeJean. And then I got to thinking more after that too. And was like, well, if they're trying to find the rat, I wonder if that's where the whole Ayuk Deebo Samuel stuff was coming from. I wonder if that entire week they were trying to figure out who, and were giving nuggets to different people to see if they could figure out where the rat was coming from. And remember when Diana Rossini reported on Deebo Samuel, and Deebo Samuel was like, I know what's going on. I'm cool. I'm chilling. I wonder if Deebo knew. He's like, hey, we're not going to trade you, but we're going to leak your name because we're trying to find the rat in the building. Maybe Deebo was even in on it, right? I'm just throwing it out there. I think it's possible. I don't know if it's plausible, but it is possible. And there was actually someone who just left, a scouting assistant just left for Washington to join Adam Peters' staff in Washington. And the 49ers didn't bring anybody in, but they gave a bump to national scout Josh Williams, who's been with the 49ers for 12 years. Most recently, he's been the national scout for the 49ers. He was been on the pro scouting side, 5 years as an area scout from 2017 to 2021 as well. Was a scouting assistant before that. So Josh Williams getting a bump, and his official title, I want to get this right, is Director of Scouting and Football Operations now for Josh Williams. So they gave one promotion to Josh Williams, and I don't remember the name of the scout that is now out of the building. I wonder if he could have been the leak, guys.
Well, clearly Josh wasn't the leak.
No. It was not Josh Williams.
What I am curious to know is, because nobody likes rats, all right? So if you do have a rat, you do have a mole in the circle, and you have a guy like Adam Peters over there in Washington. If you just find out that this guy's a rat, do you think Peters is going to pick this guy up?
Nah, that's not the guy.
That's usually not how it works.
No.
You start to see guys get kind of blackballed a little bit. There's a cornerback from Colorado, right? Or I think he's from the state of Florida, maybe. He signed as a 5-star recruit cornerback to University of Colorado. Well, his situation with Colorado got a little weird. And he came out and started saying, oh, this, that, and the other, and I play for this and not that. Well, teams aren't really touching him right now. He might have to walk on somewhere. We're talking about a guy that was a 5-star just the year before. People don't mess around a lot of times with guys that are kind of rats and telling, behind the scenes things and what's going on and people don't like that. So I don't know. Find that interesting that this guy ended up leaving the 49ers, going straight to Adam Peters and getting the job. I'm not sure if he's the rat.
The 49ers did go through this a few years ago, right? Early on in the Lynch Shanahan era, there was some scouts that and then there was like I can't remember who they were talking to, but someone they fired that was kind of upset with the 49ers at that point and was talking to different media about stuff, and Kyle Shanahan addressed it and was like, yeah, that guy, we fired him because he had he was loose lips sink ships, and he's upset. That's why he's talking all this crap about us, and that was going on. But there was a whole thing. I think it might have had to do with Matt Miller, who is the media guy, the draft guy that scout was leaking stuff to. So this has happened before, and you could see why it would be beneficial to a low-level scout that doesn't make a ton of money. Maybe you're getting a little extra cash on the side to give folks some information. You just want your voice to be heard, because I think that can possibly happen in a building as well. Is like you're doing all this work, you're like, man, this is my guy. You don't feel like you're part of the process. So I think a lot of weird things can happen in an organization, but the one thing they want more than anything, and Crocky laid it out there, is like, you can't be spilling secrets about what's going on.
Keep it tight.
In the building. Can't do it.
Maybe afterwards, and I don't know if you guys have seen the clips floating around with LaShawn McCoy, Shady McCoy, and Deshaun Jackson, but they are spilling all the beans on Chip Kelly and how everybody hated Chip Kelly, and they're calling guys like former teammates that people respect and getting them live. Like, hey, remember when Chip Kelly did this? Like, I mean, they went in on Chip Kelly. So if you are going to spill the beans and kind of rat, I think you wait till you're out the league.
Right.
Nobody wants you. And it's like, all right,
Mhm.
we might as well start to keep it real. And this is a trend with Chip Kelly, because I know a current UCLA player right now. I asked, man, how was Chip? Didn't have great things to say about Chip Kelly. And supposedly the UCLA team kind of celebrated when he left to go to Ohio State. So
Any 49er fan out there is not going to have anything nice to say about Chip Kelly either.
Yeah, 49ers fans don't think fondly of the Chip Kelly era as well. The best thing that happened in the Chip Kelly era is that he brought Raheem Mostert over as a special teamer, who ended up being a pretty nice find at running back for Kyle Shanahan's 49ers.
Thanks, Chip.
Don't miss that era of football. Bad roster, bad coaching staff, bad everything. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Nick, always a pleasure. Thanks for jumping in on a Winky Wednesday. And, of course, Croc and I will be back tomorrow. There's still more rookies, undrafted free agents for us to break down, getting to know this new roster a little bit more in 2024. And, of course, the next pod's all going to be about the schedule release. We'll know who all 49ers opponents are in 2024. Talk to you then right here, Locked On 49ers.
See you.